Ohio, Shazrin desu. And governments need inflation. Let me explain. To give you an example, let's imagine a house worth $100,000. The house is worth $100,000 this year, but next year it will cost $110,000. The year after that, $120,000, so on and so forth. So, if you want to buy a house, would you want to buy it now at $100,000 or later at a much more expensive price? Now, the rising of costs of prices is called inflation. So what inflation does is it makes you spend more money now than you would in the future. So economies can grow faster now, and governments that manage those economies get richer now. But what if there's negative inflation? What if there's deflation? For example, the same house that costs $100,000, the next year it costs $90,000, the year after that $80,000, and so on and so forth. What would happen? What would you do? Would you buy the house now or in the future? Most likely you would answer in the future. And what happens is you would save up your money, not spend it at all, and this causes the economy to slow down because people are not spending money, and this makes the governments that manage those economies poorer. And that's why governments want inflation. But there's a catch. We know that the lower the inflation, people won't spend much money now. But too much inflation, too high inflation, will cause problems too. So for example, the $100,000 house today will cost $200,000 next year, and $300,000 the year after that, and so on and so forth. So what happens is, people will start being unable to buy anything at all. Not because they don't want to buy, but they can't afford to buy, because inflation is so high. Too low inflation causes people to not want to buy things, and too high inflation makes them not able to buy things. So governments will search for a sweet spot to manage the inflation at the middle, between too low and too high. And this sweet spot is usually around 2 to 3%, and that's why everyone who keeps their money at the bank that gives out a 0.5% interest per annum is losing their buying power to inflation at a rate of around 2.5% per annum. Unless you're among the people who invest in assets that beat inflation.